I want to give you guys a quick run through of some insurance terms, which should really generate some questions for you. It's something that you should keep in mind every year on an ongoing basis. Keep thinking about them. It's stuff that we think about on a daily basis for our clients. And I want to move really quickly through this because it can get exciting. And I know you guys are just going to be jumping out of your seats. So if you do have something that kind of spurs, a spur is something you stick in the side to make a horse move. And I like to spur people on into greatness. When you kick a horse, it goes a lot faster. And that's what these thoughts are made to do. So just start with a basic thought. Number one thing, the general liability for your company. All right? General liability is very, very simple. It's when you hurt somebody, a third party, or you damage their stuff. It's really pretty. So easiest way to think about this is you walk in the door, you slip and fall, or you make a mistake and you break somebody else's stuff. My two favorite examples. So Michelle, she runs around, got this great big purse, always carrying these big boxes of flyers or brochures. She runs in here and she comes up to Gris and she drops the box because she slips with her amazing high heels. All right, drops the box right on Gris' toe, breaks his toe. While she's slipping, she spins around and smacks me in the head with her purse, breaks my nose. All right, those are two great examples of a general liability claim. Now, if she got hurt, that'd be workers' comp. We'll get to that in a second. So, always my favorite is almost always a slip, trip, and fall. Another example is on the product liability side. So, you're going to hurt somebody through the product that you sell. I had a month at Chick-fil-A. I worked the month, my first day was Black Friday at Chick-fil-A. It's the only time I've ever worked a job where I actually thought I needed to quit and sit down. I was so whipped. But working at Chick-fil-A, we make all kind of sandwiches, and one of the sandwiches they make is this fabulous chicken salad sandwich. All right, and every time you finish making your sandwiches, you collect all of the twisty ties, match them to the bags from the sandwich bags, and throw them out together. Any idea why? Have you ever bitten down on a twisty tie? It will break your tooth. Somebody did it once. Chick-fil-A said never again. And so they set a pattern. If you're making sandwiches, you collect twisty ties. So another easy example of a general liability claim. Very, very simple. One of the things I want you guys to think about, you remember and go home, tell your boss, is that the general liability has lots of really cool endorsements. They're all very, very inexpensive, very easy to do. That doesn't mean they're not important. You really need to check your contracts, read your contracts, know what you're getting yourself into, and what am I required to carry. Again, just because it's not expensive and just because nobody follows up on it doesn't mean it's important. These issues will be the bane of your existence at the time of a loss. All right, so general liability is done. Let's talk about property coverage. What are we thinking here? Real simple, right? Building coverages, contents, these are the chairs that are here. Could be the equipment you're using, the tools, my computer. What about your income? Perhaps something more important like your data. This is all property based, so all things you need to be thinking about. Are you guys leasing space? Anybody here lease space? Yeah, okay. Then on a lot of lease contracts, you're required to insure the glass in your building. It's not even yours, but you're required to. That would go right back to those contracts. Who's responsible for your product while it's in transit? Again, another property exposure. You need to know what it is. And really, I like to ask the question, what does it really mean to lose everything? If you lose something with intrinsic value, something, a painting that can't be replaced, like these walls, you can't just replace them. There's something special about them. You really got to think about that. So, workers' compensation. Here's a nice lesson for you guys, right? If you have more than 3 employees, by law, you're required to carry workers' compensation. Well, I say, I only got 2 employees, right? Well, if you're incorporated, you're actually an employee of your company, and you are suddenly required to carry the workers' compensation. One of the other things people like to do is if you're the owner of a company, you have the option to exclude yourself, right? Paul, you exclude yourself? You save all that payroll. Well, I just had this great experience. Health insurance costs just keep rising. You ever notice that? I just happened to me. We asked the question, well, how much does it cost to keep myself on the workers' compensation? How much does it cost to keep 24-hour coverage on the health insurance? It's 2% charge for the owner. I said, well, that's half as much as the workers' comp. Why don't we put you back on the workers' comp? We'll take you off the 24 hours on the health insurance. You save a ton of money. was great. It wasn't a ton of money. It was a little bit. But every little bit helps, right? Just when you're looking at it, do the math, okay? Don't just make a decision because everybody does it. Do the math yourself. When you think about workers' compensation, you guys, if you're working for anybody, you guys are entitled to these benefits. Medical, rehabilitation, disability, life, which includes loss of consortium. Michelle, it's my wife, and our 2 kids, 4 kids. All right. All those lines need to be reviewed. Thanks, John. All right, auto liability. All right, this one's easy, right? Auto liability, commercial auto liability, no trouble, right? Everybody, if your company owns an auto, you got to have auto liability. All right, so who drove a personal auto to this meeting? Anybody drive their personal auto to this meeting? Every one of you guys represented, every one of those companies has what's called a non-owned auto exposure. That means if I am driving to this meeting, I get in a car accident, all we need is Ken Nugent or Mike Costello to figure out that we were on a business meeting, and suddenly our companies will be part of that lawsuit. It's going to be great. Our carriers, our companies carry a lot higher limits than we do personally, typically speaking. So all you guys have to think about is, say, well, I wasn't actually on a business trip when I got in the car accident, but I got the email I've been waiting for all day. I saw it pop up, and of course I wasn't reading emails while driving. And I started typing and texting, and bam! I just hit this wonderful bus full of nuns. And who's responsible for that?
Oh, not a whole lot of liability.
I just took my company's cell phone. I like it. I took my company's cell phone and brought my company into the car accident that I was just in. Because the first thing the police do will check your little black box, and they're going to check your cell phone for what you're doing. And don't you know, they'll find out who you were texting at the time of that loss. Non-owned auto coverage is one of those really inexpensive endorsements to the general liability that we were talking about. It doesn't cost much, so nobody thinks much of it. $1 million in protection for your business is a big deal. We don't want to look over those really easy endorsements from the general liability. Well, let's talk about the next level. That's all the easy stuff, all right? So everybody talks about excess liability or umbrellas, because you always get the question, how much coverage do I need? Mike, how much coverage do I need? First thing to consider is that insurance is really, it's not the most effective way to transfer your risk, okay? The best thing to do is not to have the risk. But if you can't handle it, you really need to pass it on to the insurance carrier. So I say that to say the little small losses that you can handle out of an operating expense, you really shouldn't have your insurance policy pay for. I can handle a $500 claim when, Rick slips his hand in and takes my cell phone. No problem at all. But when I'm texting and driving and I get in that multi-million-dollar accident, I really need that higher limit. So I want to give you guys the 5-finger rule, okay? This is how you remember how much insurance I carry. You're going to ask me, this is what I'm going to tell you to think about. He said, if you hit the Dan Pavlin family, you're going to need $1 million for Dan, $1 million for my wife, for both my kids. If I wasn't here, I would tell you it's 7, because I'd have 2 more, and my lawyer, because that's how simple it is. You also consider the guy who was hydroplaning in the storm this past week and hit the bus full of 13 kids. Unfortunately, he died in that car accident, and his family is going to have to take care of the issue that he left behind. Because it's not always about being sued. One of the reasons we carry insurance coverages is because we want to take care of people. If I hurt you guys because I was doing something bonehead, like texting and driving, I want to fix the mistake I made. I'm not financially able to handle $1 million claims, but I can pay a few $100s every year so that my insurance carrier will take that off of my plate. Make sense? Anybody a professional in here? Anybody offer advice? Could be a professional for media, marketing, management, architecture, doctor, actuarial, or you may just give advice in general. If people are buying from you, they're giving you advice and they have a loss after your advice, what's that called? That's a professional exposure, and you have professional liability. You guys buy products from people all the time, and you're taking their advice, and you never even consider if they've got coverage for the mistake. Why don't you ask? Every year, every insurance carrier that we sell for asks us for proof of our coverage. That's the insiders. They're asking for proof. It might make you think about when Savannah Drywall comes visits you and drops all that stuff off. Are they insured? I think they've got great insurance, actually. All right, let's talk about employment practices liability. You guys remember Wade Herring? He came and spoke here. He spoke for like 30 minutes, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But just ask yourself the question, is it possible that somebody's going to accuse me of discrimination, sexual harassment, age discrimination, gender, ethnicity, or say that I humiliated them in public? Is it possible? It is possible. It happens every day. It's one of the #1 rising claims in our industry. I've actually had more employment practices claims. You know why? Because it's free with the EEOC. Doesn't cost you a thing to file one of those claims. All right, the last one I want to just mention is cyber liability. This is computer crime. It could be identity theft, all these items. Does anybody here collect other people's information? Emails? Do you take credit cards? Do you store personal data? Paula's got wound care clinic, got all kinds. You have a computer liability exposure because all it takes is a hacker to get in and spread a virus through using your system. It's there. You may decide it's not worth insuring, but you need to understand the risk and the exposure that you have. All right? That's not too hard. So I'm going to tell you a good story here. We had this employee come in. He says, hey, I divorced my wife. I want to take her off our health insurance policy. And he said, okay, great. Give us a copy of the divorce certificate. Well, we were actually married underneath of, common law. We've been, together for 10 years, and so I actually don't have a marriage certificate, so I can't get a divorce. I said, well, sorry, since 1997, common law marriages haven't been recognized by the state of Georgia. So unless you went and got a certificate from the state, you're not actually married. So here's the question. Do we want to tell the insurance company we lied on the application, or do you want to pay for your wife for 6 months? Details matter. Know what you're filling out application. You want to know what you're talking about. Talking about health insurance, most of you guys are under 50 employees, so all the changes that are coming are no big deals. But I want to tell you this. When the federal government meddles in health insurance, it might be a good thing. It might be fantastic for the country. But I will tell you this. You can't get maternity coverage outside of a group plan anymore. It's very, very difficult. So if you got an employee who's buying their own health insurance and they need maternity, it's going to become an issue. If you have a child under 19 and you want to buy an individual policy for them, can't do it. Not in the state of Georgia. All the carriers have stopped. And they're also adding taxes to all your policies, and they're called research fees. You might see that. It's good. It's good. So you guys need to have a plan. You just need to get the answers and know what you're doing. So, okay. So who can tell me in 2010 this type of claim cost insurance companies over $350 million? In 2011, it was $497 million. So tell me, the average blank was this type of claim. So average of $30,000 per claim. Anybody want to guess? It's dog bites. The average dog bite claim is $30,000. Personal lines insurance pitch right there. In 2007 to 2011, this claim was an average of 35%, and 20% of all claims are outside of high hazard zones. Ryan Sewell, what is it?
What'd you say?
20% are outside of high hazard zones. He's answering an email. I caught him. It's good. per floodsmart.gov, the average flood claim, $35,000, and 20% were outside of the high hazard zones. Very, very inexpensive. Just to give you another fun fact, in 2011 there were $2 billion paid out in flood claims. Hurricane Sandy just had $10 billion. So watch out, Savannah. 51,000 wildfires in 2012, 79 tornadoes in 2012. You guys are filled with all the fun facts you could ever want to know about insurance. Any questions? Any questions?